Good morning, everybody. I think we'll have to keep on coming back again and again. I think it's a long time, so maybe some initial comments. Future of fossil fuels is still there, very much there. I think I don't see oil going away for at least 25 years anywhere, and gas certainly not for another 40, 50 years. It's extremely clean fuel, very efficient, and very flexible for use. Um, and then we will continue to have a requirement for oil for lubricants, even if you have vehicles, electrical vehicles coming in due course, if the storage and the battery problem is efficiently solved. So, and what happens to petrochemicals? We are so dependent now on petrochemicals. So raw material for that is again oil, lot of medicines. So I think there's a lot of still a long future. As a matter of fact, when I was joining oil sector, and this is really Jurassic time, those of you who know geology, yeah? It's in 1962 I joined ONGC. And I was told, what a foolish guy you are, there's hardly oil for 15 years, maybe 18 years at the most, and while you are young, you'll retire. You have nowhere to go. And I was very worried. I had many sleepless nights. And finally, I was called for interview because I was one of the bright students at the university. So whether I should go or not, but then I thought it's rude to say ONGC that I'm not coming for interview. So finally, I went for the interview, got selected, and here I am. I mean, I retired now almost 12 years ago, and I should have actually retired 50 years ago if I have listened to those guys. So it's very much there now. Now, Norway, for example, now, when the Norway found oil in the North Sea, it was said they have oil for 20 years or 25 years, because whatever surveys they did initially, and Norway's oil lasted for 70 years. And they're still producing from satellite fields. Same thing happened in North Sea. North Sea is still continuing, although huge decline from the peak production. So now let's come back to India now. I mean, our Prime Minister has given a target that we should reduce our consumption by at least 10%. And I think it's a very, very apt target he has set in now, because any country having 80% of import is unbearable, strategically totally wrong, and it has happened in 71 war and even in 65 war. There was unofficial oil embargo on us. Nobody said we have oil embargo officially, but our refineries went dry. 65 we had a bad experience, and 71 it was certainly promoted by a number of powerful Western countries. They didn't want us to go into Bangladesh at that time. And our good old Mumbai High, we call it now, we used to call it Bombay High, of course, and that has saved us because the field was flogged. We increased production initially by 6-7%, and even took it to almost 9.5% more production than what we should be producing from Bombay High field to keep our defense forces, Navy and Army and Air Force functioning. So strategically, 80% dependence on crude oil, and virtually, I mean, eventually the way we're going now, there'll be higher dependence now on natural gas, not immediately, but maybe in the next 30, 40 years, because we're not even producing enough natural gas now. Right now, we are very comfortable with natural gas. We're very happy with that. We only import about 8-9% of natural gas as LNG. And then again, as a geologist, I always say that we should never worry about natural gas in this country, because all our sedimentary rocks here, tertiary rocks where we produce oil and gas, young ones, they all came because of the sediments which came from Himalayas, or Himalaya, as we call it now. When you go abroad, we call it Himalayas. So these rivers which came from Himalaya deposited these sediment in the Indo-Gangetic basin now, and these are rich in plant material, what you call lignitic material. And lignitic material is source for gas. So India should never have problem with gas production, in my view, especially from younger rocks, tertiary rocks, because all tertiary rocks are gas prone. We have difficulty in finding more oil because we have less sapropelic organic matter. And another thing we do wrong here is that we've been concentrating almost till I joined ministry as advisor, 100% oil production was from tertiary rocks. Whereas world over, 65% of oil comes from Mesozoic and about 25% or 18% comes from Paleozoic, older rocks, further older rocks. And very little, 8 to 9% oil comes from young rocks from which we produce in our country. So, I mean, there's a lot of things there now. So, it's not that we have scraped the bottom of our barrel. No, we have a lot of oil still left in India to find because we have done very little. We have done now, last 15 years, we have done now Mesozoic exploration. Now all our gas and oil from Rajasthan is now Mesozoic in age. What Cairn is producing now, again, Mesozoic. It's not tertiary. When I started deep water as DG hydrocarbon, there was a CBI inquiry on me. So this guy is wasting government money, and he is looking for, he's doing survey in deep water, which is 1,000 meter deep at that time. Whereas ONGC and Oil India in the past have only worked, they produce oil and gas in 70, 80 meters of water only, but they have done survey up to 400 meters of depth only. And this guy is spending government money on 1,000 meter of depth. And this is what they call, the CBI letter says, infructuous expenditure, so there's inquiry on me. And so I had to go to CBI and explain to them what the world is doing and how far behind we are. And I couldn't get through to CBI people, explaining the geology, what's happening west coast of Africa, what's happening in Brazil, Campos Basin, what's happening in North Sea, what's happening in Gulf of Mexico, how much they're producing from deep water, we are far behind. And they said, no, but National Oil Company is not working. So why are you going now? DGH, what, you got hardly 70 people there, and National Oil Company has got what? At those days, 28,000 people, not much less now. So I had a tough time, but fortunately for me, there's a Cairn discovery 8 months later in deeper water. So I rushed to CBI office after informing minister and everybody else. We were all very happy within a week with the report. He saved my soul. Here is a find, and many more will come now in due course. So the inspector there was, okay, fine, okay, I'll give you some more time. Keep on informing me. And a year and a half later, the Reliance find. And then Mukesh Ambani's statement came in the press that to his board that how many $1 billion of oil he'll be producing from there now. That was my saving grace, and then the inquiry was closed. Now, the point I'm making here is future for oil, I'll come to fossil fuel later on, in India is still bright. And 80% production, 80% import from overseas is absolutely no from a strategic point of view. We have to bring down our imports as much as we can. And the saving grace is, and I am the biggest fan, although I'm an oil man, but I am biggest fan for renewables, especially solar and wind. And God has blessed this country with a lot of sun. And we have western part where I have my first discoveries in India when I took charge in Oil India, all came from Rajasthan. Rajasthan was a non-producing basin. I was the first joker who produced hydrocarbon from, again there was an inquiry on there again, the why you going to Rajasthan, a long story, it was full of inquiry in my life. So we found hydrocarbon in Rajasthan. And Rajasthan, when you go there, nothing grows there in the Thar desert, an ideal place for us to generate as much solar power as possible. And we have tremendous resource for wind generation there because of the heating of sand is so effective that we have strong breeze in the morning and at night for change in temperature, and ideal place for generating solar power. So I'm a biggest fan for that. So that is going to really save our grace as long as we become reasonably self-sufficient in producing electricity from solar and wind, then slowly our fossil fuels will come down. But certainly, I was talking to some of my colleagues here who've flown in now. Whenever you fly in out of any foreign country into India, from Iran onwards, we start seeing a haze, complete haze. And by the time you reach Pakistan, you can hardly see anything outside. And this haze goes on because I keep on going to Australia sometime and Singapore for conferences. It goes on till Singapore. And this pollution has to be taken care of. And that's why I think what Mr. Rastan has very nicely gave us the lead on this, that it has to be clean fuel. I mean, what is more important for us is not to run our vehicles or have electricity. We must survive. We must live long enough to enjoy the electricity and have a life to drive that car. If we die 10 years early or 5 years early than our normal due date, as per life expectancy, we're not achieving anything. So ultimately, it has to be clean fuel, on which the government is now working. Although I'm surprised America has relented now. They've pulled out of Paris talks. And rightly, our government has put in their full share, and they are fully supporting the environmental targets that have been set for India now. Despite that, we're not getting any commitment of which was promised to us that if you do so much of control, so much funds will flow from developed countries. That's not happening now, but it's still we're going ahead. That's a commitment of our Prime Minister on this now. So I think, having said this, I'm just making a little comment, keeping the door open for interjecting many times as and when required. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.